We all are involved in sin, but the levels of sin are different. Sometimes we might say a word or two which is sinful. And sometimes people might be engaged in kaba'ir al-dhunub, which are sins like zina and drinking of alcohol, etc. May Allah protect us from both types of sin. But if a sin is being committed, never justify it, because the minute we justify it, that will result in the failure and downfall, not only of ourselves, but even those around us. Because we will create problems, we will create difficulties. Why? Just to fulfill a little desire we have in our hearts. Something we want, and we say, look, this is allowed, and this is permissible. Why? Because so-and-so said it's allowed. Yeah. What is allowed and not allowed is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permits, that is allowed. And what Allah has made prohibited is prohibited. It will remain that way until Qiyamah. No one will be able to change it. So rather put more clamps on your life and enjoy this life and get the fruits of the akhirah than to try and take out the clamps and you might just be swinging straight through to the shaitan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save me as well. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save everyone who is here. So these occasions of happiness are occasions where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us. He wants to see, you are happy this day, what do you do? Are you going to ensure that I am also happy as your creator, the one who gave you life, the one who blew into you the ruh that you have, and the one who is going to take that ruh away? Are you not ashamed of yourself if you are going to try and disregard the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a day like this? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from amongst those who understand the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We are all weak. The sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is so vast. We might have 10 issues, 15 issues in our lives from amongst the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah grant us the ability to increase that. If we have 10, we should go to 15. 15, 20. I was taught by one of my sheikhs. He says, if every year you bring into your life one major sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then inshallah in 20 years, how many will you bring? 20. In 30 years, how many will you bring? 30. And sometimes we can even be stronger to bring in more of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us strong. May He make us steadfast. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us truly from amongst those who are always concerned about pleasing Him. Don't worry about people. The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, من أرضى الناس بسخط الله سخط الله عنه وأسخط عنه الناس. Whosoever pleases the people and in the process earns the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah becomes angry with that person, and very soon the people will also hate that person. If not in the dunya, in the akhirah. إِذْ تَبَرَّأَ الَّذِينَ اتُّبِعُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا. We all know the Qur'an. And we all know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says on the day of Qiyamah, there will be groups of people who will be fighting with one another. Ya Allah, this person led me astray. Ya Allah, that person led me astray. Ya Allah, I was doing wrong and this person didn't tell me anything. So we don't want to have friends of that nature. We don't want to be bothered about people who will not be able to help us on the day of Qiyamah. We don't want to have, meaning we don't want to be drowning in the lives of other people and in our own lives to the degree that we earn the wrath and anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always be concerned of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same hadith continues to say, whosoever pleases Allah, and I will end on this note, whosoever pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the process, the whole world becomes angry with them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with that person, and very soon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ensure that even the people will be pleased. The minimum is in the akhirah. Sometimes in the dunya people might not be pleased with you until you die. But then in the akhirah, because your whole life was dedicated to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter what people said, you will find that in the akhirah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make them understand that this person that we have here, this person has been earning my pleasure. Everyone will be pleased and they will understand this particular issue. And we must also understand, and on the occasion of nikah, there will be people who will come to us and say, no, no, no. Why is it that you are having this function like this? When we want it to be Islamic, they will say, no, come on. This camera here is allowed, or music, a little bit of it is allowed. Nowadays there are people who come, they will bring you cassettes and they will tell you, Mufti Sahib, is this allowed? A'udhu billah. How far do we want, what do we want to justify? We'd rather close the whole issue and put it on one side, rather than trying to bring things to please what? To please whom? To achieve what? We need to understand this. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has decreed, let us purify and cleanse ourselves. We need to get to a level that sometimes even the permissible things we need to start staying away from a few, because we must protect ourselves from that thing which is haram. If something is permissible and we are fearing that by doing this, we might later on be engaged in something haram, it's better to abstain from that. That is another level of tasawwuf, to abstain from halal, fearing that which is haram. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to understand what is being said. So, people might come to you and say, no, you can have this, you can have that. Oh no, it's fine, the boy and the girl, they engage, but they can meet, never mind, you can send them off, to eat at the restaurant or this. What is this? People will come to you and tell you, and when you tell them, I want to do it Islamically, they say, no, this is also Islam. That is a test. A test from Allah and a fitna from shaitan at the same time. Because shaitan knows, and this is something very important, shaitan knows that this person has engaged in the obedience of Allah. How can I spoil it? How can I spoil it? And this is why I remember Mufti Mahmud rahimahullah, when one person complained to him about concentration in salah, he said something very interesting. He said that, firstly, you must thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you got to the level where you are actually reading salah. You are right here. That is why shaitan came to you. A person who reads salah without wudu intentionally, may Allah protect us, he will concentrate 100% in salah, because shaitan doesn't come to him. Shaitan already got hold of him. But it is the person whose salah is correct, his wudu is correct. He came to salah, shaitan tried and tried everything but didn't get him. Now the last straw is to take concentration away. So you must thank Allah that up to that level you have got. Now work on that concentration. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us concentration in salah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us happiness in the dunya and the akhirah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit myself as well as yourselves from what has been said. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabina Muhammad.